If you clicked on this, you better watch this movie. This is Watch With Us Wednesdays. Today got a really good movie. I personally find this to be one of my favorite animated movies.
I think this is one of my top 5 just favorite movies.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about Your Name.
Some mornings, I wake up crying without knowing why. That sort of thing happens now and again.
Whatever the dream was I had, I can never remember it. But
the only thing that does last when I wake up is a sense of loss, which lingers for a long time afterwards.
I'm always searching for something. Or someone.
I've been consumed by this feeling ever since that day.
The day a star fell. It was almost like
seeing something out of a dream. Nothing more or less than a breathtaking view.
All right. So as you heard in that clip, a little bit of love going on.
And a little bit of confusion.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, I think, I am the worst when it comes to movies. I've gotten a lot better, and I hope you can attest to that. When we were first married and dating, I would ask a million questions 5 minutes into the movie.
That's right.
What's happening? Why is this person doing that? And you just say, be quiet, watch the movie.
Yeah.
And I think this movie was one of the first where I try not to ask a lot of questions because, dang, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, you know, there might be a couple hiccups where you're like, well, I didn't really get that. But upon the second or third rewatch, you've got it down. And I think we watched this movie
several
twice
times.
kind of in a row. We had one part of our family watch it, and then we turned around and watched it with another part of our family.
Yeah,
and
this is one of those. This was like you just get that movie. You're like, yeah, I'm going to watch that until I don't want to. But we haven't gotten there yet. We've watched it several times, lent it to plenty of friends. That's why we're lending it to you guys, our new friends. Yeah, today's, Your Name, otherwise known as Kimi no Nawa, which was actually, I believe, upon a little bit of research, this was the third name. They finally settled on that initially. Went through a couple choices as it was brought to Toho. I think it was initially titled If I Knew It Was a Dream, which, I mean, fitting. Sure.
Yeah.
And then it went to Your Connection. Yeah.
Out of the two, the first was definitely.
Oh, this was actually the fourth, because then there was also You Are Half of This World.
Oh.
Which, yeah. I think Your Name. Nice. Concise.
And, you know, they don't really outright... It's not a direct line from the movie. Like, the characters don't really say your name, but they kind of do in some instances. And that's always a funny, situation when a character in the movie is going to say the title of the name of the movie.
Yeah, it's normally a little hokey. It works here, though.
Yeah.
We're just going to, let's do it in the previous fashion. We're just going to give a little rundown about a couple of things interesting about the movie, and then we're just going to do a lot shorter than the Akira one. We're going to do a little run through of the movie.
Yeah. So the release dates, this came out in Japan in August of 2016. And then just shy of a year later, April 2017, it was released in the USA. And 94% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is actually the first anime not made by Studio Ghibli to gross 10 billion yen at the Japanese box office.
That's right. And I don't know, at the time of its release, it did end up getting the title of highest grossing anime film of all time.
I did see that, yeah.
Which, impressive. Created by Makoto Shinkai, who is now just steamrolled the name for himself. He's got several works that, I had actually heard of one of his works before this movie. So I was kind of cool knowing a little bit. That was 5 centimeters per second, which I had actually been told about that one just because the art in these works of his, beautiful. Set design, character design,
even
everything.
The colors, I saw a couple clips and I'll talk about it later. I don't want to spoil any of the facts I have later on in
That's
my
right.
talking points, but I watched a clip of one of the movie he made just prior to this one.
The Garden of Words.
The Garden of Words, and you can see a lot of his distinct style, but it is just dialed up 100% when it comes to execution of the art in Your Name. I
Your
felt like it
Name,
was
Pinnacle.
not necessarily night and day, but it definitely was a great boost.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely, which, you know, we did a few months back, went and saw, there was a theatrical release of his newest film, as of this recording, Weathering with You. There's definitely, he's got his formula down. It's always going to be about love, these star-crossed lovers, which is great. I'm all in for that.
I'm always down for a great romance, and if it can fit in kind of something mysterious in the plot where it really makes me think 100%. But man, those heart-wrenching moments, which I'm going to talk about, I hate getting that pit of my stomach when I'm watching a love movie, and it does it. This
It
one
does
and Weathering with You.
But that was actually the point I was trying to make here is it's always going to be the romance. Weathering with You, we will eventually do an episode on that. Very formulaic, pretty similar to Your Name. I enjoyed it a lot, but Danielle,
No,
I think still puts
wait.
Your Name above it. We all enjoyed the movie, but what I'm saying is Danielle puts Your Name, and also our friend Michael. That's right. Who will actually be on a episode soon. We're recording this Thursday for that. But yes, back to Your Name. The music, as we were touching upon, was actually a big draw for the movie. There's actually segments of the movie that the movie just goes, later, enjoy this sequence of beautiful images with like this music. It's almost kind of music video type stuff.
It is one of the best. You know, I love when movies take a little bit more time in their intro credits.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them where you have the intro credits. Obviously, you can't read it because it's in Japanese, but you get these slice of life moments with both of our main characters. And then you have, oh my gosh, Radwimp's, their musical score, so memorable. And that's what I had under my most memorable moments is just I capitalized music because it is so good.
The lead vocalist for Radwimps, Yojiro Noda, I believe, because I think when we went and saw Weathering with You, they had a little featurette. And I think by Weathering with You, maybe even on this, Makoto is like, homie, here's the premise of the movie, make some music. And the music was actually being made as the movie was being made. So it's
beautiful. I read another comment where, you know, as the script was being written, that they collabed together and actually bits of the movie were adjusted to kind of formulate the music. And another bit of info I read was that Radwimps wrote all new English covers of their original songs for the film's international debut in English.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you're watching it in English, all the vocals are in English, and that's always great because sometimes it doesn't translate 100%. You know, I'm going to eventually do a solo pod on Sailor Moon when I finish watching it, and that intro song is night and day with the lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, some things just get lost in the translation, and Radwimps makes it as enjoyable for us as American English viewers as they did, you know, when it was in Japanese.
Let me do a quick skirt right back to Sailor Moon. I know we're not talking Sailor Moon, but heater of an intro song. That melody, I don't care. Yeah, you were 7 and you were more into Street Sharks. That came on after Street Sharks. I was humming it. Yeah, I could get down with that. But yeah, this is another one, you know, we praised Akira for just the incredible visuals. And granted, that was way back in the day, so it is very impressive. This has been another one of those jumps. I now, like, you know, when I'm watching an anime movie, I'm like, listen, we've hit a point where you got to get to that Makoto level.
Yeah.
Blessed.
So some interesting interesting facts before we get into the movie.
Spit 'em.
So Makoto Shinkai actually made a Japanese novel and released it I'm sorry, it's called Your Name, and he released it a month before the movie came out, which I thought was interesting. And it sold over 1.3 million copies. And then he also made an accompanying visual guide, which sold 2.5 million copies.
Hooey.
Now, might need to grab one of those visual books.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if it's at our local joint Mitsuha. We're going to have to go and look.
Absolutely. But I love that hype, too. If you were, like, not in the know and you're just browsing, you're like, oh, Your Name, cool. Pick that up, you read through, and you're like, man, they should make this into a movie. And a month later, oh, wait, wait a second.
It's like done. It's ready to go.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And then I know you saw it too, but live action movie in the works, which we're always worried how those live actions work
There's
out.
some factors to it that seem nice, some factors to it that don't seem so nice. J.J. Abrams is a busy man. His name is now attached to this. I just hope he puts his full attention to it. And a little shout out to the hometown, the current place of this podcast. It's going to be, the live action will have a main character from Chicago. So that could either make or break this. If he comes in going, want some pizza? I was going to go watch the Cubs. Oh, God, please no. So it should be interesting. They're going to cater to, of course, mass audiences. That could, I don't know. There's something about anime that just made this is how you need the movie. So even if the live action has come out, welcome to listening to this ancient podcast from 20 years from now. Listen, you may have liked the live action. Watch the anime. But any more facts for us?
Any other facts I have I want to save till the end.
Absolutely.
When we talk about it. And then when you guys watch it, because some of you guys listening might not have heard the skirt, back it up, you need to watch it. But if you haven't up until this point, you need to push pause, you need to put a pin in it.
Yeah.
And go watch it, because I don't want to spoil anything.
These
for
streaming
you.
services, they will keep track of exactly where you were. And, all right, go on.
Go on now, get it.
And welcome back. All right, it's time to actually get into the movie itself. Now, this
movie, as we discussed, we're not going to break it down like we did Akira.
Yeah.
And this movie is sometimes hard to go in a chronological order because they're bouncing back and forth.
Yes, and actually that's a quick, side note galore. This movie has what I need in any romance that includes the movie, what's the one with the
About
red...
Time?
About Time.
Oh my gosh, one of my...
We found and watched that movie, and then I realized, wait a second, I think I'm totally into the comedy, romance, time travel. Those three. And then this movie gets on our radar. I'm like, wait a minute, it's checking all three, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, a little bit of time travel in this movie. So we'll of course talk it in most chronological, but this movie does jump. Well, no, see, we've already kind of given something away. We don't know that initially. So pipe it down, both of us. Let's just get into it. Moment one, movie starts. The comet in the sky, you get these visuals. It is already, I'd love to say that it just took a dab of the frosting, put it on your lip and laughed. No, this took a fistful of cake, slammed it.
Oh, it was like you blowing out your birthday candles when you're one and your parents shove your face in the cake.
That's it. Welcome to the visual euphoria that is this movie. The environments, honestly, watch this movie on mute, not the first time. Come on, guys. Second time, watch on mute. You can still enjoy this.
It's eye candy, the whole movie.
My goodness.
I mean, even the close-ups that they do a lot of close-ups on the face to show emotion in the eyes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just drawn so well.
And based on, it's a fictional town this movie takes place in, but not the Tokyo one, the other one. But based on some live actual spots in Japan, which you can actually go and visit, the staircase, all that stuff. We'll get into it later.
You're stepping on my notes for after we're done.
Take that, baby. But yes, we got two teenagers. We've got Taki and we've got Mitsuha.
Yes. And Mitsuha, she is a high schooler living in the town of Itomori, which is fictional but based on an actual region in Japan.
That's right.
And she's the daughter of the town mayor and the granddaughter to the keeper of the Shinto shrine. And she's bored with small town life. And
Yeah.
there's a point in the movie she's doing her shrine rituals as a minko. Yeah. And she, to her frustration, because she is so tired of living in this small town life, she says, I wish I was reborn as a
boy, because life would be a teenage
boy in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And
wouldn't you know it? That might have happened. So a lot of this, the first bit of the movie, you are actually seeing her and then our other main character, Taki. A lot of it is basically, as they fall asleep, gets a little Freaky Friday on us.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think the first time they body switch is they're both waking up in bed, and they're the one where Mitsuha is in Taki's body and his phone's going off because his alarm, and she's reaching over because she obviously knows the parameters of her bedroom, which she lives on a mat, and he's got a raised bed, and she's going to reach for the phone, falls out of bed.
Yeah.
And I think one of the funniest moments is she's looking like down at herself and hears his male voice coming out, and she grabs the throat, and then she reaches down to his crotch and she's like, hey.
Yeah.
And then Taki does the same in her body. And
absolutely. I believe it starts with him waking up as Mitsuha and freaked out being in a girl's body, as you would. I don't think there's anything unbelievable about that. And you can tell that it's actually happened maybe a time or two before we're even introduced, because unless maybe she was just acting weird, but Mitsuha's little sister comes in and notices her being weird again and tells her that breakfast is ready.
You're touching your boobies again?
Was it the boobies the first time?
Well, yeah, because they, before even explaining it, I think they start the movie out with him in her body. He's like touching her breast.
That.
Yeah, and then they stop because you're made to assume that when she comes out of her bedroom to have breakfast with her grandma and sister, that it's still the body swap. And the sister, I think, or the grandma says, like, oh, you're back to normal. And she's like, what do you mean?
Weird yesterday.
So you don't see anything that happens when Taki is.
You gradually see more and more
as they start switching.
Because it's less prevalent. And then she goes to school and everyone's acting like, whoa, what was up with you yesterday? And then same with him. It's like, dude, what got into you?
Yeah.
And it's just this small little progression where you're starting to pick up on, wait a tick. And, yeah, it's good because, you've got this small town girl living in a lonely world. I apologize. And then you've got him, the bustle of the city. So it's, the swap's great in general because they're clearly having not only the old gender swap, but they also got the lifestyle swap, which is kind of crazy. She has to, in his body at some point,
go to work. He's a waiter at an Italian restaurant.
She's got to find her way to school in his body.
Oh, yeah, true.
Way different than walking down the hill to school. But yeah, so from that, you kind of get walked through of this back and forth. They're slowly learning, and then they start to actually communicate with one another.
Yeah,
or is that jumping too quick?
No, they start, leaving notes in each other's phones on what happened during the day because they were...
Well, the first one was she's in school because
yes,
you follow her on a normal day, and she's in school, and this is where, as we had just said, oh, you were acting weird. Well, she's like, whatever, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she's in class going through her book, and she flips, and it does say, who are you? And you're like, okay, all right. So she learns that she's clearly, something's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and as these swaps keep happening, they start making notes in each other's phones, so when they are swapped, they know what's going on during the day. I love how in one part of the movie, you know, the two girls, Mitsuha and her friend, are complaining about how there's no cafes in town. There's nothing but two, like, drink bars for some reason in this lonely little town. And when she's in Taki's body, his friends say, oh, let's go to that cafe. And she's salivating because that's
like,
what she's always wanted to do. And Taki, as they keep body swapping, he's like, stop spending my money by going to these cafes because it's like $17
yeah,
a
those
pop or
Tokyo
whatever.
prices. She's getting the pancakes. She's doing all of it.
And I love her snooty comment back, like, I'm working for that money too because she's having to work on some of those days. So.
Which actually her first day, well, I mean, her first day going to school, all that's a little bit crazy. But then they kind of start settling in a little bit.
Yeah, it just becomes part of the norm. I mean, eventually.
Exactly. You end up finding out that her father is the mayor of this small town, so then there's that extra little ammo. She's kind of bullied by these, you know, popular kids, and only makes that worse because when she's going through her... when she's going through the braid making ceremony, or no, not a braid making ceremony,
The sake?
The sake ceremony, you know, these snooty kids, oh, that's weird, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, listen, you're in the small town, you know exactly what's going on. Continues doing the swap. Little things start happening. You have just interactions with separate characters. Taki's got this...
Ooh, he's got a crush on his lady
crush.
boss.
And don't get me wrong, everyone's crushing on this girl at the old restaurant.
Oh, Okidera.
Okidera. Yeah. And, you know, when Mitsuha's in the body, you know, she encounters these rude people who says, oh, there's something in my food. He just put it there, the jerk. To which then she's handling it weird in his body. And then...
Okidera.
Say it one more time.
Okidera
comes over and she's like, I'll handle it. Get the heck out of here. And then you find out that rude dude cut her skirt, to which just fight or flight. She's like, well, I know how to sew. So she just grabs her, brings her into the back room. She's like, all right, you know, take the skirt off and I'll fix it. She's like, what the Taki, what is going on with you? Ends up turning into an innocent moment. She sews this cute little hedgehog into it. Which then someone notices that and might start liking Taki now, because showed a little bit of a sensitive side because, well, it was a girl.
Yeah. Spoilers.
And then on the other side of things, Taki's not he's sticking up for Mitsuha at school. You know?
Yeah,
people are, you know, whispering loudly in art class, and he just kicks the thing over and is just acting like a tough boy and now girl, and is making sure that no one's messing with Mitsuha on the other side there.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say?
You tell me.
So trying to progress kind of
of course.
what's going, but you know, you mentioned how Mitsuha and her sister are doing the sake ceremony, which is actually the kuchi kamizake.
That's what
which
it
is literally translated as mouth chewed sake.
Yeah.
So part of this ritual is you take rice, put it in your mouth, and then she's spitting it into a box that she's going to seal up and place in the Shinto shrine as an offering to the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And
it ends up in a little bottle, though, right?
Yeah, did I not say that?
You said the box, but like I'm
she
just
puts it
trying
in
to
a box,
remember.
and I think they put it in a little vessel, which we see later.
Just listen. I know it's a ritual, but
I wonder how does chewing the rice mixed with the saliva turn into sake? That I need to look that up because
that's what I'm saying.
That's interesting. But so they're doing that ceremony, and they do the ceremony, which is very cool to watch. They have, you know, little bells. I'd love to look up the meaning behind the dance that they do before they do the sake ritual.
It's a very cool sequence.
You know, and we see them doing the braids and things like that, or the braided cords. And on the day they go to offer the sake to the shrine, Taki is actually in Mitsuha's body. So
but that's
Well, I don't know how everything before that is they're kind of body swapping.
Well, no, I think there's then a cool part of the movie where it's totally understood, and as you were kind of touching on before, but then they start communicating via phone to one another, like on a daily basis. All right, if you're going to have my body these days, you know, do this or that, do this. And that's when the complaint of, hey, stop, stop spending all my money, all that stuff. So no, you get this cool part of the movie where they're kind of, it's actually working kind of seamless for the situation for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, one day, little things are happening. Okudera ends up texting and going and like trying to set up a hangout with Taki. And then this is where there's like this little tinge, and this is where it starts to move a little bit more. And like, this is something Taki wants. And, you know, Mitsuha's like joking on the phone, like, hey, you got your date, you know, do
Which
this.
she set up in his body.
Exactly. Set it up, hooking, perfect wing woman right there. Hooks it up. But then you start to see there's this glimmer in Mitsuha. Like, she's got this, there's a little bit of, oh, wait, I'm actually jealous. I might be falling for Taki.
Well, she wakes up one morning and she realizes that today would be the day of Taki's date with Okudera, and she's tying her hair up with her cord, and it pans up like from her knees up to her head, and you don't see her yet. She's got her hands behind her head, tying her hair up in her classic style, and it pans over to the left, and you see that she's crying, and she doesn't understand why she's crying. But we obviously know why she's crying.
To be young and in love with a person that you've been sharing bodies with. Am I right? A lesson we all have gone through, I suppose. But yeah, so, you know, the date goes off. At this point in the movie, you're like, listen, Okudera, very cool. Clearly the siren of the movie. No. At this point now, you're like, wait a minute. Now I'm sad. I want Taki and Mitsuha to be together.
Well, and we got to talk about how that date went.
Oh.
Crash and burn.
Not
baby.
well. Apparently, Taki went actually trying to, you know, hang out with her. Doesn't go well. And Okudera, she's a sharp one. She understands. She's like, you're not, like, the one that I like right now.
Yeah.
Not that he has split personalities, but, like, she's onto it. She's wise to it. And she's like, listen,
something's wrong with today.
Listen, bro, not digging it. She doesn't say that, but you watched it and you know that.
Mm-hmm. And she says it kind of gently.
No, she's a sweet, sweet lady. Good on her. And so, you know what? After this whole thing, you know, she ends up saying, I'm sensing you got a crush on someone else. That is what that is. And then I think, you know, and admittedly at this age, boys, we're not the smartest, especially with cues. If Danielle, during our dating portion of life, if she wasn't as forward as she was and just kind of said it like it was, I am so stupid with signals. I got nothing. We wouldn't have gotten anywhere. Ladies listening,
be patient with your man.
Please be patient. We're not a smart breed. Danielle could have held my hand and said, wow, boy howdy. I hope you wouldn't say boy howdy, actually. But, you know, she'd say, I very much like you. I would have ended that, gone home, and gone to bed and been like, I don't know, is she digging me or what's going on here? That could just be me, though. So with that prompt of like, he starts thinking about it and he attempts to call Mitsuha because they've got each other's phones. They know the numbers at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens?
And just so you know, the day that Taki takes the sake up to the shrine is the day before Okudera's date. So just letting you know.
Oh, so you were on it.
Order.
Listen, I believe it.
I want the record to show people that Tom sometimes doesn't know what he's talking about, and he'll cut me off.
In this podcast, generally don't. I just wanted to jump. I skirted. I didn't call the skirt. I should have skirt. I'm done with whatever I'm saying. So yes, call clearly doesn't go through. You go back to Itamori, and Mitsuha is greeting us with a new haircut.
Yeah.
Why is it happening things? Why do girls just suddenly go, you know what? Haircut time.
What? I'm glad you asked because it's in my notes to talk about in the end, but we can talk about it now. So cutting your hair symbolizes when a woman has broken up with her lover, which we've seen in a new show that we're going to talk about soon.
That's right.
So I don't want to say it because we'll talk about it later.
We will talk about it later. So yes, at this point, hair is cut, and that is, she's going to get ready and go to the festival with her friends.
Yeah, which Taki left in her phone from the night before that. Hey, the meteor shower, the comet's coming tomorrow.
Make sure you get a good view and all that. And this is the moment that the comet, a pretty pivotal character, may I add, which we'll see later, comes visible. And like us all, the characters, even in the movie, everyone's just staring at it like, wow, beautifully done. It's so
the colors are
very pretty, which is great. But
and then it stops.
What is crazy?
Sure.
No. She's staring at it, and then a part of the comet breaks off, and her eyes widen, and then we cut from it.
Yeah.
Then we go back to Taki. The swaps are becoming less frequent, I believe.
I think he, as you said before, he's trying to call her and he can't get through.
And actually, no. Right when she sees that comet, then things go back to normal. Yeah, he is actually now at a point where he's wishing they could switch again. He's kind of bored. He's back in the swing of his life. It never happened again.
Yeah, and he actually then, because he wants to see her, he's a man on a mission. He doesn't know really where this region is, and they don't. But
he
really
did have a sketch.
Yeah,
he's
which they don't. Drawer. Well, which they don't really talk about. But he wanted to go to school to be an architect. So, Granted, how he can draw such great pictures.
Him and the homies just trying to be architects. Boy, how do you know I feel that? So he's just traveling around. He's trying to find out where this place is. He's looked in all these books, can't figure it out, looking at kind of like the lake formation that he's drawn. And finally, and Okudera and his friend say that they'll go on this day trip. Or Absolutely. Like maybe like a weekend it would probably span. He's like, gotta go find it. We already know that his one friend, as well as Okudera, true homies. So yeah, they're like, you know what? Let's go look for this. Just moral support. And frankly, I'd be just as curious. They just want to see this girl. Because if he's willing to turn down Okudera for this girl, she's got to be pretty special.
Yeah, and I think they're more interested because they keep saying, like, I haven't ever met her. I think he may vaguely, because obviously he can't say, like, we're body swapping because they're going to put him in a straitjacket. But,
most anime, if you actually said what was going on, problems would arise. This movie would be much shorter. Cut to him in a straitjacket, just blowing bubbles out of his mouth. But yeah, so they just start heading out into the old countryside. And they're about to give up. It's a whole sequence. They're jumping trains. They're doing all this stuff. It's just more eye candy. Even like the boring parts of this movie, you're fine with because it's like just looking at a bunch of paintings. It's fun. Mm-hmm. You ever gone to a museum? Bring the museum to you with your name on DVD. Wait, no, get it on Blu-ray.
Blu-ray and DVD combo pack. You do both,
wow,
and then you have a copy to give to your friends, and you don't have to give them your Blu-ray.
Which is true because they might not even give it back.
Yeah,
almost had trouble with that with Spirited Away, but that's a different story for a different day. So yes, they're montage. They're about to give up,
and they're eating.
And they're eating at a local restaurant that's just this little, it looked good to me, wherever they were at.
Oh, anime food's always so good.
Oh, my gosh.
They're talking to the waitress, and he's like, yeah, we're trying to find this place. And no, I'm sorry, I take it back. I think he has the drawing out on the table.
He's just looking at it. He doesn't say a word.
And she sees it, and she says, oh, I recognize that place. My husband used to live there, or we used to live there, or something like that. So she calls the husband over. And that's when we get the bomb dropped on us.
Well, they would. Bip, bip, bip. Bip, 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 bip. The owner is. We start getting our signs of it. The owner goes silent, and then explains something about just kind of some devastation that happened in that town. And that comet we had seen earlier, and especially had seen it split. The unfortunate truth hits, and this is the heart-sinking moment of the movie. When we first watched it, listen, I'm generally good at calling where a movie goes. For some reason, I was just so susceptible that day. This hit, and especially because the guy says, you know what, I'll drive you up there. Taki drives up there. They look down from this area that they're at, and it's just this huge crater. Beautifully rendered. But I was silent. We may have even paused, and we're like, what?
Yeah, so what happened? The comet, the comet
Hey, handle it then.
killed like 500 people that day when it broke off.
Basically, it split, slammed into the town of Itamori, and that's the. We'll wait.
And I think what's most heartbreaking is Taki finds Mitsuha's name in the records of fatalities.
Later. First, Danielle.
Well, how much are we going to draw out
Listen, we're not drawing it out, but, a little thing happens. He looks at his phone. He's like, well, no. She's got to be. And all of his phone starts clearing out. All these messages, all the calendar stuff that she had done starts disappearing. So, no,
True,
I'd say that's pretty major. Homie. So, yeah, then it's their, they can't believe it. They go to the local, they go to a hotel.
He can't believe it, and his friends think he's psycho. He's like, this can't be the girl you've been talking to.
Put yourself in the shoes. You're like,
Yeah, because...
I don't know what I would think, and I try to be a good friend, but I don't know what the heck you're supposed to do in that scenario.
Yeah.
Anyone got any advice on that? Leave that on our I Married a Weeb Twitter and also our Instagram. Guys, listen. We notify every time there's a new episode on there as well. I know you're already subscribed and the moment these come out on Monday and watch with us Wednesdays. But follow us on social. Little plug there. I think that's A-okay.
Yeah. So, then he finds Mitsuha's name in the records of fatalities and realizes that it was 3 years ago. Oh my God, the devastation, the pit of my stomach, knife-wrenching.
Yeah, at this point, we were relatively, and I'm not saying this movie's incredibly, it'll draw you in, you will totally, but for some reason, me and Danielle, they set these characters up enough to where, this moment was pretty,
it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it was no alien bursting out of a stomach, but I'd say it was up there in surprise factor. So, he ends up just finding out this 3-year thing, which, that'd be a little mind-boggling. Like, wait, I was body swapping. How does that even work? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have just jumped aboard the time travel train. That's where it comes in. So this body swap was actually happening in a little bit of a 3-year difference. And makes sense. Why did he stop body swapping? Well, it's because the festival came and went. Yeah, it's... Boy, oh boy, oh boy. So
Taki's reeling. They're at an inn, him and his friends in town, and he's just reeling. And then you start getting worried because he's starting to forget mentally.
What
his mission is.
Exactly.
Why he's there. Who is this girl? Why am I looking for her? And then he starts to forget her name. And you're like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, uh-oh. So he wakes up, there's a note. His 2 homies, listen, you can only wingman for so long, and when you find out that she doesn't exist and you never met her and somehow we're talking to a ghost and starting to freak them out, they leave a note and say, hey, we're going back to Tokyo because I've got...
I thought he left the note and he left early.
No. Oh, yeah, he did leave the note. Sorry, that's my bad.
He gets up early.
Yeah, and leaves the note for them saying, yo, head out. So whatever I just said, forget it. Why even trust me at this point?
You correct me and I correct you.
This is the beautiful...
Give and take.
That's right. So he ends up making his way up to the shrine on the top of this sick mountain.
Yeah, which you never let me finish, but before, when I was talking about the day that the grandma is taking Yotsuha and Mitsuha to bring their sake offering to the gods, Taki is actually in her body. So
Yes.
he, gets to hear about the lore, or I guess I shouldn't call it lore, but just the traditions of why they bring these offerings to the shrine, which there are generations in their family that have done this
that,
same
yeah.
thing.
And I don't know why the kids don't hang out up there.
It is sick.
It's a dope spot. I mean, it's a little bit of a hike, but come on, you're a small town, whatever. But, and also, shout out to Taki. Grandma was getting a little tired on the walk.
Oh.
Carries Grandma up the mountain like a true gentleman.
Well, in Mitsuha's body, but...
All the more impressive. He's using different hardware. The guy's just still champ. Yeah. So from there, he's like, well, you know what? I got to go up to that shrine. There's got to be something up there.
Yeah, so he ends up going up there, and he goes into the shrine, and we see the marks of what 3 years has done, because we see the 2 sake bottles from Yotsuha and Mitsuha.
A little decrepit, looking a little dusty.
And they're dusty, and they got some mildew on it, and he has the thought that he can reconnect with her if he drinks some of her sake.
And by some of her sake, he means drink some of her spit.
Well,
listen,
at that point,
it's more romantic at that point. It is fermented, especially over 3 years.
And it is crystal clear.
Yeah. So pours himself a little cup of Mitsuha and takes a swig, and then proceeds to fall and bump his head.
And we get a beautiful kind of flashback.
Well, you also see the markings in the cave, too, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, the markings of the meteor from previous generations.
Yeah.
Or the comet, I should say, in the cave. And then we get this beautiful scene of Taki floating through kind of like a white void. And we see Mitsuha's childhood. We see her mom and how she passed away when her sister was really young.
Mm-hmm.
And bits of her dad. After the mom died, he can't handle it. He ends up leaving to where the grandma starts raising her and her sister. And then, one of my, I got the goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
We see, which we've never seen before, where Mitsuha is somehow with Taki on the train. She's about to get off, and he reaches out to her and says,
not yet.
yeah, I just watched it before we did the pod.
I just watched it too. It wasn't right after he slammed his head. I watched it before you came down. Okay. Hey,
And
keep at it.
You don't see the full thing.
Just the glimpse.
But you see a
that's fine.
glimpse, and you see her cord from her hair, and she calls out to him,
Mitsuha! My name is Mitsuha!
Yes. So that helps remember the name, because he was having trouble with that.
Yeah, and then we wake up, and we don't wake up to him in the cave. He is now in her body.
Yes.
And it's the day of the festival.
And it is time to get things rolling. He's the only one who knows what's going to happen. He is, of course, going to sound like a psycho as he runs around trying to warn people, but luckily he's got 2 awesome friends that we've seen later in the... Well, she's got 2 awesome friends.
Yeah.
And, he's calling upon them and saying, we need to get... This festival can't happen. We got to get people out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Just to save time. There was an attempt to, her dad's the mayor. So he's like, hey, you got to get people out of here. He's like, you're talking crazy. And there's these moments of people are seeing how Mitsuha's acting, and in this case, Taki. And they're like, who are you? Because they can tell that something else is going on. The grandma had done it.
Mm-hmm. Which the grandma actually gives us a slice of, you've been acting weird. Now I'm putting it together. And generations past, this has happened to your mom had situations like this. I had situations like this. So now we're realizing it's not just her. This is kind of an Itimori thing.
Yeah. And you know what? I know we love each other, but that family, that's some deep sea, that's some love right there. Switching bodies and whatnot. That's all right. You wouldn't know how to handle the hairy chest. It's constantly itchy. But yeah, so little sneak peek. So clearly the dad's not helping. useless, that man. I don't like him, that mayor character.
No, and he's really mean, you know.
He's a jerk.
All throughout the movie,
Stand up
he's
straight. Yeah, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't like him. But,
politics. Am I right?
yeah, forget everyone who's dealing with politics. So the plan is set. They need to set off an explosion and then start warning the town that an attack has happened on the town and to get out of there and to go up to the school on top of the hill because that's a primo spot where, guess what, wouldn't hit
Yeah.
the meteor. So you go through all this preparation. They're doing this. They get the plan set. And, Taki's grabbing as Mitsuha is grabbing. That's what's so hard to talk about this movie because it's like, it's Taki, but it's Mitsuha. He hears these kids going, I'll see you at the festival. He grabs these kids on the street. Don't go, you'll die. And they're like, what is wrong with you? Which properly, I mean, that's exactly what we do. But for some reason, then it hits. He's like, wait a second.
I'm not, and he's...
If I'm in my body, if I'm in her body right now, then she's got to be up by the shrine.
Yeah, because he's starting to have an internal dialogue. Like, if Mitsuha was here, would people believe her? Is it me?
Yeah.
And then he starts to put it together, because obviously he knows where he was on the other side.
That's
so
right.
he ends up making his way to the summit of where the
Straight
shrine
GTA.
is.
Takes the friend's red bike, which rest in peace. That's the one casualty. Well, no, there was 500 casualties in this movie, but this was the one on-screen casualty. That bike gets dropped, and you're like, man, that was a nice one. Makes it to the top of the hill, and we get these awesome visuals. We get this cool moment where they're yelling, and they're able to hear each other. Even though they can't see each other, they're running, and then they finally kind of cross paths, and this little beautiful, I love that sound effect, little bell happens, and they realize they're there. Magic hour happens.
And the chord, you see the chord.
And then magic hour hits, which is this magical time that has been mentioned in the movie. And then, boom, they're standing there looking at each other. The swap happens again. They're each in their respective body. And they have this cute little moment, which, if it's magic hour, that hour went fast.
Yeah. Like 5 seconds.
Real fast. And, they talk. It's cute. He gets... So then we get actually, right before this, we get that longer event of her going... She had gone to Tokyo to meet with him.
Mm-hmm.
She's walking around all day, doesn't find him, and ends up seeing him on a train, runs up, and it's this cute, exciting moment where, holy cow,
he's right here.
He's right there, and you're like, what the? She goes up, she's like, Taki. He's like, doesn't even listen, then finally looks up, and she's so cute. She goes, it's me. And he's like,
who are you?
Devastation.
And she's just so shy.
How many times can you get punched in the heart till you die?
One shy away, obviously, in this movie.
No kidding. So, then you get that full sequence of
she's gonna get off. It's her stop. She's gonna get off.
She's clearly embarrassed, the poor thing.
And he has this look on his face, and he's like, "Wait, what's your name?" And she's obviously being pushed out by the crowd. If you've ever been in Japan, those trains are crowded. You can't stop.
Later.
It's not like the U.S. where you can stop wherever you want and people will move around you. It's ebbing and flowing. So she's getting pushed out of the train. He says, "What's your name?" And she turns like this, exciting look on her face. And she says, "It's Mitsuha." And she takes her cord ribbon and throws it through the air, and their hands connect. And he then has this cord, which if you're paying attention throughout the movie, when they're body swapping, he's wearing that cord on his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a little device, yeah.
We realize that
he's had it the whole time.
He's had it the whole time, and in Mitsuha's time, he obviously didn't know her yet. So this is like the weird overlapping of when they're body swapping, but he didn't know her yet, so he didn't have those memories.
Which, if you watch it a second time, I think you can notice it on him, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so
the
it's
second
like,
time
holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Oh, so let me go back now that we've talked about that part. So about the hair cutting. So I think the reason why she cuts her hair isn't necessarily because she knows Taki had this date with Okudera. I think because the day before the festival, she goes to Tokyo to try and find him. that situation happens on the train, and I think she's slightly devastated.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, obviously they had that interaction, but the fact that he didn't know her, I think that like broke her in a way, and that's when she cut her hair because she doesn't have her ribbon anymore. So
No.
that had to have happened the day before the festival.
Absolutely. Well,
So-
it did, yeah.
Mhm.
Because during this whole excitement, she goes, "Why'd you go to Tokyo yesterday?" So no, 100% happened the day before. So they're up on top of the mountain. Guys, thanks for bearing with the sporadicness of the
Hey, it goes with the movie.
hosts, but goes with the movie. And frankly, you know, it is what it is with this one. We'll get better, we promise. So top of the mountain, he gives the ribbon back. She ties it, looking all cute. Nice little moment. And then he takes out a little pen. Nice pen, by the way.
Oh, yeah, zebra pens. We love
Zebra
them.
pen, good stuff.
And and he says, why don't we write each other's names on our hands so we don't forget?
Yeah, which he could have then also said, because, man, I'm having these lapses of absolute amnesia. But there's no time for that.
And so he, you know, has a turn to write on her hand, and then she gets one stroke of her name down, and then
It cuts and the pen falls to the ground. That's another punch to the heart. I can't take it, Danielle.
yeah. So now he, which we're gonna include because it is one of my favorite, I wouldn't necessarily call it a quote, but one of my favorite VOs of the movie that gives me goosebumps whenever I hear it is him having this monologue on top of the mountain. He's just saying, you know,
I was planning to tell you that wherever you are in the world, I swear that I'll find you again, no matter what. Your name is Mitsuha. It'll be okay. I'll remember. Mitsuha. 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 Your name is Mitsuha. Your name is... Who are you?
and then he's starting to forget. He's going to write it down on his hand, and as he's going to make the mark, he can't remember, and he's like, what was I here to save? Someone important to me, someone special, and
Oh, blessed. So yeah, just like that, he forgot it again. That boy and his forgetfulness, I tell you what. But then we cut back. We've got Mitsuha is running her little legs off because he says, you know, you still got something to do here. We need you to survive so we can eventually meet up. She's running down. It's this whole sequence. I believe we get another Radwimps song during this. Perfectly executed. Every time there's a Radwimps song, oh my gosh. The theme of Mitsuha on Spotify, by the way, if that's where you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and put in theme of Mitsuha and listen to that song. Oh, bless it. So makes it down there. You see the plans kind of unraveling. People are getting caught.
and people aren't believing the evacuation
And
notice.
people are, yeah, exactly. It's just this whole thing. You've already been devastated several times. It keeps going. It's just this downslope of emotion. To which we eventually get to the point where then, well, now you can go ahead.
Oh, see, I don't really remember all the details, but
Okay, so
I don't think we don't really see.
she's desperately running. So what ends up happening is she's desperately running. Sorry, I just want to give you some equal air. I don't want people to think that I'm just sitting here taking over. But she's running. She ends up tripping. And it's this moment, and I've got a shirt with this moment. It's great. The moment's not great. The shirt's great. To which she's like, oh my gosh, well, you know, and there's this kind of moment of at least she has his name still. She opens her hand, and it doesn't say his name at all. It says, I love you. Oh, that dumb boy. I mean, honestly, as a guy, that's smooth. It's not helpful, but it's smooth. So she's shocked. Gets up, starts running, reunites with her father in a building, and you get this nice slow-mo, this sequence of you cut back to the comet, it breaks through the clouds. When it breaks through the clouds, sickest moment. It's so good. And it hits the town, and you've got this devastating animation of it decimating the town. Goodness gracious. Then we cut to instantly 5 years later. They ain't even going to give you that break from all this devastation. They're going to say, you know what, here's some more. And did she live? Not going to tell you. So 5 years later, we cut to Taki back in Tokyo. He's graduated from high school. He's now trying to enter, and college. So he's trying to enter the workforce as that architect, as we've mentioned. He draws very nice buildings and stuff, as we've seen. But, he then starts, in these interviews, you see him like saying, I want to bring back, nature with my designs and all this stuff. So this experience and that town of, what's the town?
Itamori?
Itamori is definitely affected him, and you can tell it's kind of messing up his interviews because everyone's like, no, we're in Tokyo, dude. We want some cool, sleek stuff. But he has some really cool designs. They're very cool. And then he gets a call from Miss Okudera asking to meet up. They catch up, mentions the day that they went to Itamori 5 years ago, because now they're clearly grown up. He says he doesn't really remember much from that day, to no one's surprise. Hey, Taki, what'd you have for breakfast? I don't know. But he says he can't really do that. And he doesn't even remember why he's obsessed with that town. But as we see, I think it ends up cutting back to it, but Mitsuha was able to talk to her father. But yeah, we do cut back. And then the father is meeting with her after she's done her running, and she clearly met up with him and is able to sway her father, that stone wall of a man,
to evacuate the town.
To get to the top of that. Which leads to the town is evacuated. They're out of the blast radius. The town's still devastated, but no one dies. And yet, Taki knows this. He remembers the comet hitting a town. Still cannot make the connection. What an absolute boy, am I right? So we then just a little bit more of normal life happens, and he doesn't know why, but Taki has definitely been searching the town. There is there's this.
Well, they both have a nagging feeling. Yeah,
there's this fragment, and you do see in a couple sequences they're kind of in the same vicinity, I believe. Or is that later? Anyways, finally one day, they had been passing each other. You see her with an umbrella, and then she's in the background.
Yeah,
it's very cool, and you're like, come on! You're like talking to the screen at this point. You're like, turn around! Turn around, you cartoon! Then finally, they're on the subway. He's looking out the window, and then you got these, you'll see it on the CTA. You're on the metro, whatever. And sometimes another train will come up right next, and you get that awkward moment of staring at the people across the way. Well, guess what? Not awkward this time. He looks over and he sees.
And she looks at him.
They lock eyes.
And they know.
And they know it.
And they get off, and then you get this heart-bursting sequence of them running, trying to meet up at a mutual spot.
Side note, that's how it happened at school. I looked at Danielle and I knew. She was selling grilled cheeses at our art school, and listen, I'm not going to say that the anime did it okay, but my real life was a little bit better. Saw her, wow. She doesn't really remember this moment, so it's a little bit more of a one-sided.
Yeah, because ladies, I was turning on the charm, trying to sell some grilled cheese.
It was working? You were selling?
It was working. It was for a fashion show. It was a nonprofit. I had to get all the monies I could get.
That's right.
I think we raised $18,000.
You got all that money plus a husband at some point. You didn't know it yet. But back to the movie, yes. Lock eyes, crazy montage of they're running to find each other. At this point, you're annoyed. You're like, just, please, movie. You've done enough. Not in a bad way. You're like, please, I just want them to meet. Blah, blah, blah. Then finally this staircase, the iconic staircase from Your Name happens. He's walking up, I believe. She's walking down. They both see each other. They know something's up. And then there's this moment they're going to go walk right past each other. And then they walk past each other.
Oh, my gosh. And I think they do it in slow-mo.
Oh, my gosh. And I honestly, I look at Danielle, I'm like, no. But he stops at the top. She stops. They turn around and simultaneously ask, can I ask your name? Boom, camera swipe up, Radwimp's song plays, you have goosebumps, you enjoyed the movie, and you're very happy you watched it.
Yeah, and that, my friends, is what we called a wow ride.
Yeah, honestly, like, it didn't... No, I don't know. It didn't change the game any storytelling-wise. It just did it so well. The form of anime, which we love, and it's just, ultimately, I love the movie. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm sure there's criticisms. I'm sure there's plenty of plot holes. Just watch the movie and enjoy it.
But it's such a fun ride. I think you can overlook the plot holes because it's just meant to be fun.
Absolutely.
And
let's give a speed round of some nice extra little post-movie facts. Do you have some more?
Absolutely.
Let's.
Which, speaking of plot holes and, whatever, Mikoto Shinkai, he actually, despite the praise he got for the film, he insists that the film isn't as good as it could have been. Poor guy. Isn't that the worst? You put out a great movie and then deep down you know that it's...
Good on him, though.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you got time crunches with projects.
Exactly.
I'm sure he knows.
And he's been known to say that there are things that they couldn't do, and that their art director wanted to do, and they wanted to keep working, but with the lack of money, they just had to release it the way it was. He said the plot is fine, but the film is not at all perfect, and he says 2 years wasn't enough, which is kind of hard to hear, but it's still a phenomenal movie. So
2 years, you can't get change in a Call of Duty game with thousands of people. 2 years for a movie that looks this good, I think that's an understandable thing.
Yeah.
And good on him. I mean, I don't
Sometimes
think anyone...
you have to know when...
No one, I don't think anyone generally thinks their work is perfect. So good on him
and
showing that he's a human.
And that, I think what you just said, the fact that he knows that it's not perfect, I think is a great... You can't go around thinking that it's the best or you're never going to improve. And as we've seen with Weathering with You, he's only getting better with the more movies
I hope he keeps going. I'm selfishly going to say this guy needs to do it. He can't retire. I'm sorry. Mr. Shinkai, it's not happening. We need you.
So some other points I'll kind of rattle out really quick. So the name of the Italian restaurant I think I mentioned is in Italian, obviously. I'm not going to say it in Italian because I'll butcher it just like I do in Japanese.
Yeah.
But the name of the restaurant is called The Garden of Words, which is Makoto Shinkai's last movie that he did.
Yeah, look at that.
And also, which we haven't seen this movie, I would like to watch it, but also the teacher who teaches Mitsuha's classical Japanese at school is Miss Yuki, and that character is the heroine from his previous movie.
He is very good at the things because we were watching Weathering with You in the theater, and Danielle nudged me. She's like, "You recognize that character?" Mitsuha is, and her little red ribbon is in Weathering with You.
And I think Taki.
Taki is as well, yeah, with Grandma. Grandma's in it too. She made it.
Well, his grandma. I think it's his grandma.
Oh, is it his grandma?
Yeah,
dang it.
Yeah, I'd like to go back when we own it, and obviously we'll do a watch with us Wednesdays on it. But the red string is actually a symbol and a common trope in Asian culture, where it's believed that two people with a shared destiny are bound by a red string. So, hence the red cord,
Very cool.
which is so prominent. I talked about the sake already. The train station that Taki and Okudera meet at is actually a real JR train station. It's the Yokosuka station, Yodosuka. And then when Taki and Mitsuha are swapping bodies, which I've never noticed, but I saw someone comment it, when they're showing the dates on their phone, let's say it's Wednesday the 17th, the dates are different on each other's phones. So it might be the 17th, but one might be, let's say, Tuesday, and one phone might say Thursday. So if you're really watching, which I think it's in Japanese, so we wouldn't be able to read it anyway.
Yeah.
They don't do subtitles for those notes, but you'd be able to pick up that this person's phone says it's this day, but this. So when you read those subtle cues, you can put it together beforehand.
Yes. Phenomenal. That's great. Yeah. And with that, expect once Weathering with You is on DVD, we will, of course, do a watch with us on that, as mentioned. And just like that, I think we're going to, half hour shorter than Akira. We're making progress, and we'll continue to make more progress. That's all from me. Danielle, would you do me the pleasure and absolute solid of saying goodbye?
Bye, guys.